I have had many near-death experiences in my life. A lot of strange things have happened too. The first time happened when I was 6 years old, and I did not have a happy childhood. I was often abused by my father. I would often hear the voice of an old man. He constantly comforted me. He also liked to sing to me. I told my mother about this experience and she thought it was something I had imagined. But I knew it was real because I could see him very clearly. He was wearing an old-fashioned hat and lace-up shoes. He was all gray. We communicated telepathically and we played together a lot. He is my best friend in the world. We lived near an airfield and one day a jet plane flew low over the roof. The plane was very loud and I was terrified, and my friend was with me. My dad explained to me why the plane flew so low. I was curious and walked out into the yard. My friend made me stop and told me to look up at the sky. He asked me, "What do you see?" I told him that I saw blue sky and white clouds. He waved his hand and replied, "Look again." This time I saw a beautiful place with mountains and water, and trees and flowers. The colors were very bright and clear. I had never seen such colors before. They were so pure, as if they had not been polluted in any way. The people there were very happy. Then my friend waved his hand once more. A new sight appeared. I saw black smoke, demolished buildings, and human warfare. It was the exact opposite of the first sight. My friend told me that humans need to make choices on Earth. We can love each other and the first vision can become reality, or if we hate each other, the Earth will be destroyed at the hands of humans. The choice is entirely in our hands. I told my mother what I had seen. My mother didn't like my friend and told me to leave him. As I grew up, I realized that my mother had been raised not to believe in God. Then my father died, and when I helped him pack his things, I saw a picture of his father. I found out that my childhood friend was my grandfather. In the photo, he was wearing a hat and lace-up shoes. I also found his death certificate. He had died before I was born. My grandmother used to tell me that I reminded her of my grandfather. Throughout my life, my grandmother and I were very close. Grandma and I had a secret that she and I could communicate with each other telepathically. I kept our secret until after she passed away. My second experience happened when I was 11 years old and I was allowed to swim in our pond. My mother, who could not swim, stood at the water's edge watching me. I decided to show off, so I swam to the center of the pond, where the water was very deep. Suddenly, my calves cramped up and I slowly began to sink to the bottom of the water. I couldn't see the sunlight overhead anymore. Darkness surrounded me and I sank deeper and deeper. I couldn't keep breathing. I felt like my lungs were about to burst. But finally I gave in and I sucked a mouthful of water from my nostrils and it flowed down my throat. I felt no pain. I swallowed another mouthful of water. As the water entered my throat, I felt relief. I kept sucking in water and my lungs no longer felt pain. A feeling of peace filled me. I watched as a bright white light came out of my chest and the white light floated in the water. When I looked down, I could see my flesh below me. My flesh looked calm. I left my body, I no longer felt pain, and I was now not afraid at all. I hear the voice of a lady. I had heard her voice when I was abused by my father as a child. I just remember her saying to me, "I have a lot of work to do on earth and I have to go back to my body." I felt my body fill with power and I flew out of the water. I swam to the water's edge. My mother got very angry and yelled at me on the way home, saying I had been in the water too long. My last experience happened when I was 23 years old. I was very sick and had some flu-like symptoms. I was getting ready to go to the bathroom when I passed out and I collapsed on the floor of my bedroom. I don't know how long it took, but I felt like I was floating on the ceiling of my bedroom. I saw my husband calling my name from beside my body. I answered him, "It's okay, I'm fine, I'm above you. Look up at the ceiling." I couldn't understand why he couldn't hear me. Nothing looked out of place. All the furniture was where it was supposed to be. I suddenly noticed a circular black hole in the ceiling. I was curious, so I walked in. I saw a very small waiting room, which was so dark I couldn't see anything. After a few minutes, a force pulled me deeper. The passage wasn't as dark as the waiting room. Suddenly, a group of dark shadows came toward me, and they turned into people in old-fashioned clothing. As the men stood in front of me, they called out my name. They explained, "They are all my relatives." There was no need to be afraid, but I didn't know any of them, and they welcomed me with open arms. My relatives were talking to each other. Two of the women decided to walk with me through the tunnel so I wouldn't be afraid. My other relatives disappeared before my eyes. I walked between these two women and they were talking to each other. It seemed like they hadn't seen each other in a long time. After walking some distance, one of the women said, "You will have to walk alone the rest of the way." Then the two women also disappeared into the air. I felt a little panic. I spotted a small white dot the size of a pinhead. My intuition all told me to walk toward that light. As I approached the light, it grew larger and larger. I walked for a long, long time, but I was still far away from it. I heard a man's voice say, "Don't go any further in." I stopped immediately. I saw a distinct line at my feet. On the opposite side of this line, the tunnel was getting brighter and brighter. At that moment, my instincts told me not to cross the line. I noticed a white figure to my left. Who was this figure? There was no mistaking it. It was Jesus. As I stared at him, I sensed another world. I knew that was where God was. There was a familiar connection between Jesus and me. It is love that binds us together. We are all the same. Yet we are different. He added, "You have to answer some questions in order to move on. This is what we call a life review. The first question, how have you helped others?" I told some of the things I had done. He answered, "That's good. Second question. What have you learned in this life?" I gave my answer. He replied, "That's good, but you have a lot more to learn." The third question. In what way have you given of yourself? I started to get confused. I didn't know how to answer this question. He showed me all the good and bad things that happen in life. When I saw how I hurt others, it was very painful for me. After my life review, he told me that I had to go back to Earth. I knew he was right, but I wanted to stay here. I had many more questions for him. He told me I could before returning to Earth. I asked him a few questions. The first question: where am I and what is this place? He said a bunch of words I couldn't understand. I thought he was speaking a foreign language. I said, God, I'm a simple man, please answer me in simple language. He went on to say, this tunnel leads to heaven and hell. Going up is heaven and going down is hell. God also showed me a panoramic view of the tunnel. Second question: what would it be like if I decided to stay? His answer: there are no human words to describe it. The third question: can I go to hell and see it? His answer: yes. I flew along the tunnel and landed on a very small platform with two huge angels around me. Although I couldn't see the angels' wings, I knew they were special and that they were there to protect me. It was so dark that I couldn't see anything. When my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw the figures of humans and demons below. Demons were torturing humans. I heard various screams. Satan told the ministry what to do. When Satan locked eyes with me, he ordered his hands to come down and grab me. They climbed onto the platform and tried to grab me. They could have easily grabbed me if the angels had not protected me. I began to pray to God, asking him to take me out of here. I told God that I would do whatever he wanted to do. I never wanted to see hell again, it was just too scary. Fourth question: can you show me the world outside the tunnel? Everything in this world is glowing. There are trees and flowers. There are mountains and rivers. The colors are all very vivid. The colors are the same as the colors my grandfather showed me when I was a child. These colors are very pure. It feels like everything has life. They communicate with each other by using different tones, which sounds like music. Next, God showed me my future life. I was in awe. Then he said, when you return to Earth, all these memories will be gone. I said, God, that's not fair. He said, after you experience something on Earth, you will remember what you saw here. I went back into my body. Before I could open my eyes, I heard my husband calling my name. When I opened my eyes, my husband was kneeling beside me. I told him everything was going to be okay, and not to worry. After this experience, God asked me to go on a mission for him. At first, my missions were easy to accomplish, but as time went on, they became more and more difficult, and then I became very sick and was hospitalized. When I came home from the hospital, I was exhausted. I began to pray to my cross. I thought about all that Jesus had gone through in his life. The pain and sacrifice he went through. And how we had abandoned him. He endured so much for us, and what have we done for him? Through prayer and meditation, I started a new life. I know how to fight the darkness with love.